Welcome to our October 17th edition of Golden Black Live. Very special show today. Tom Dienhart will join us in segment one. We'll talk Purdue Northwestern football. Segment two, Matt Painter, Purdue men's basketball coach. We'll break down the season. We'll look forward very much to that. And then Patrick Tutko will join us in segment three. We'll break down a little bit about the private equity in the Big Ten and all of that, get a little bit more of that facts and figures about what that is all about in today's show. I want to thank our sponsors, the Triple X Family Restaurants. Kerry and Greg Ayresman have been great to us over the years, but they're on the hill and on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. And, of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. We appreciate all of them. All right, we're going to bring in the expert here, and Tom Dienhart. As we look ahead, he'll be heading up the road to Northwestern. It's micro stadium, I guess you'd call it. Certainly the 12,300 and some seats. And we saw in StubHub last night, or Derek Schultz pointed out, those are an expensive ticket because there's not many seats in that venue. In Purdue, smallest venue Purdue's played in since the end of World War II.
Yeah, scarcity, right? I guess scarcity jacks up the price. I did take one econ class at Purdue, Allen.
There you go.
I think it was econ 210.
Yep.
I don't remember having fond memories of it, but I digress. You don't want to hear about my academic career. It's going to be intimate. It's going to be fun, Alan, at least for a guy who's never been there like me and other Purdue fans, right? We've seen it on television. Of course, this de facto stadium is only going to be there for a couple years, and this, Alan, actually will be the last game in it.
Yeah.
How about that? So Purdue closed the old Ryan Field. They're going to close this temporary field as well. Let's see if the Boilers' luck is different. This time, of course, Purdue lost the finale in Ryan Field. Which brings me to this, Alan. That game back in 2023 was the debut of Ryan Brown.
Right.
He alternated that day with Bennett Meredith at quarterback. Purdue, of course, came up short. Hudson Card was out hurt that day. There's your history lesson.
Yeah.
Fast forward almost 2 years, and Ryan Brown's now the full-fledged starter at Purdue after taking a detour to North Carolina. You couldn't make that stuff up, could you, Alan?
No, it's amazing.
And, Ryan's had a nice year, Alan, and he's done all he can. He has his foibles. I think sometimes he may try to do too much. Maybe he feels encumbered to make a play when a play's not there to be made. But I tell you what, I think you can agree with me on this. He certainly would be even better if his receivers could catch the ball more consistently, right?
Yeah, but drops have been a huge issue. Obviously, last week, and a heartbreaking loss, if you're a Purdue fan, to Minnesota was a big factor in Purdue's demise. Yes, Northwestern Medicine Field at Martin Stadium. You better put that in your GPS.
It's a mouthful.
You get there. It's right on the water.
Yeah,
and there may be some water tomorrow. A little bit of a chance of rain. As those two teams tee it up. It's been interesting. Purdue used to dominate way back when you and I were growing up. Purdue won, 22 of 24 games or whatever that was, a large run against Northwestern. Now the Wildcats have won 12 of the last 18 in the series. Purdue's 177 victories, I think it is, in the series, but it is the team that's beat second most in the Big Ten with the exception of Indiana. But this has been a tough out for Purdue with that last win being in Wrigley Field, right, in 2021.
Yeah, and we were at that game. That was a fun day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What a neat setting to see a football game. But yeah, I've been saying Northwestern is sort of everything in football Purdue wants to be. And they haven't reached that yet. Just a smart program, a button-up program, a program that doesn't beat itself, a program, most importantly, that's won pretty consistently with a few blips here and there.
Sure.
Since going back to the late Randy Walker.
Yeah.
And
Gary Barnett, obviously.
Gary Barnett, who he really kicked it all off, right? Before Francis Pay and Dennis Green. And our buddy Rick Venturi.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, incredible. And you're right. They've really flipped the script in this rivalry, much of the chagrin of Boilermaker fans. And it's going to be tough this Saturday too, Alan. And Northwestern, nothing fancy, right? They want to run the football. They've got two good running backs. They're going to feed those guys. They've got a transfer quarterback from SMU, Preston Stone, who had a rough start against Tulane to start this year, but has settled down and giving them some good quarterback play that they really lacked in recent years. And defensively, they don't have a lot of takeaways, but they don't give up a lot of big plays. They keep things in front of them. So the challenge is steep for Purdue, and there's going to be emotion too on Saturday for Northwestern. Not just a team that's won 3 in a row, including that huge win in State College, PA, that effectively, put a fork in James Franklin, but they're going to honor the 1995 Rose Bowl team. 30 years, Alan Carpet, the 1995 Rose Bowl team at this game. That team was one of the most improbable stories in college sports history.
Yeah.
We talked about the sordid history of Northwestern, and to see that program rise up, win the Big Ten, and go to the Rose Bowl was unbelievable. Gary Barnett will be there. Remember, he promised everybody he's going to take the purple to Pasadena, and he delivered.
Yeah. They won that, and then they won the Big Ten, a share of the Big Ten championship the following year. Did not represent the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl, but yeah, unbelievable story. And they've been kind of at times everybody's darling because they were Northwestern. People do remember them in the 70s and 80s, and that 30-some plus game losing streak that they endured from 1978 to 1982. All right, David Braun has really done a good job there. He's beating Penn State is a big deal. They beat UCLA, and I know that at the time that wasn't a huge upset. It wasn't an upset at all. But UCLA has turned the tables too, and in terms of its victories over Penn State and Michigan State, and the fact that they beat Michigan State as impressively as it did is it's just an interesting time in the Big Ten, obviously, because you've got these upstart teams now. UCLA is dangerous. Indiana is the talk of the country. Just had Kirk Cignetti, that's coach, just signed a long contract. He may be coaching until he's 80 there, the way that's working out. It's kind of upside down. And that, you look at Purdue, and if you're Barry Odom, you're trying to carve your place in the sun, so to speak, that I think can give you some hope that things can turn around. Maybe not this year, but maybe down the road.
Yeah, you're right, Alan. And things change so much from week to week. We all know Purdue's been very, very close, right? We all can agree, I think, the team has improved from what we saw, especially from last year. I think they're better coached. They don't quit. They play hard. They typically deal with adversity pretty well. But when it comes to making those 3 or 4 key plays during a game to really win it, they haven't been able to deliver that. The key play in the key moment. And it's maddening. I'm sure the coaches are exasperated. And at some point, think things will work out. You figure they will. You like to think hard work eventually will pay off. And we'll see. Maybe it's Saturday, Alan. This certainly is not a game that's unwinnable. We all know that. Purdue's given 3 points, a mild underdog, if you will. And they just have to taste victory at this point. Any way, shape, or form, no matter how ugly it looks. Just get a win, right? And then everybody's outlook brightens, and then Rutgers comes for homecoming the next week. So, Purdue's going to have things buttoned up, but can they make those key plays at key times to maybe put the Wildcats away if they have that opportunity to do in the fourth quarter? And Alan, I think you and I both agree it's probably going to be a 4-quarter game. 1-possession game could come down to the last possession.
Yeah, Northwestern last year, of course, Purdue, a completely different roster, but beats Purdue in overtime in West Lafayette as well. And, of course, the game 2 years ago was close, came down to the last possession, and Purdue had a chance to tie it in that 23-15 loss. And, of course, Bennett Meredith and Ryan Brown both kind of rotated at quarterback for that day. And that is, that's where we are with this series in Purdue, because the Boilermakers need to find a way to make it 4 quarters. And we look at the valuation of the season. It's hard to do that right now. Purdue sitting at 2-4, and they really project to have they have a murderous schedule in November with Michigan on November 1st, Ohio State November 8th, Washington on the 15th, and then, of course, they end the season on the 29th against Indiana. You don't figure to win any of those games. So let's talk about measuring success on this season and the importance of somehow getting a win or 2 here in the next 2 weeks for Purdue, just to feel like you got something you can hang your hat on.
Yeah. Barry Odom knows it. He said this is a results-driven business, and hustle, playing hard, getting close, that's all fine and dandy, but he realizes you have to produce a win at some point. We all know that, right? That's why they have the scoreboard, they
Yeah.
say. So he knows it. And when you talk about measuring success, certainly you have to look at the one-loss record as a way of measuring success. So
Yeah.
they're one win better than last year. But I think they want a Big Ten win here, right? They haven't won a Big Ten game since 2023. And that would be progress. 2 Big Ten wins would be obviously another feather in their cap. And if they could finish 4-8, I think a lot of people would have to be pleased with that. I always go back to the preseason, the Las Vegas over/under win projections for every team. For the Boilermakers, it was 3.5. So 3-9, 4-8.
Yeah.
And I think even beyond that win-loss total, Alan, though, the other things I talked about, you can say what you will and say it's a loser's mentality, but still, I think another way to measure success is how they played on the field on a consistent basis. Now, I think the effort's been there, the preparation's been there as well, and against that November schedule, Alan, yes, it's very daunting. It's a steep hill. Purdue's going to probably be a double-digit underdog in every game, but I guess you measure success there is if you can take those games into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Make them sweat. Maybe have a chance to win one of them late. Who knows, man? Maybe they pull off a stunning upset. You and I are old enough to remember how Purdue earned that Spoilermaker nickname.
Yeah.
And they're going to have nothing to lose in November. Nothing to lose. While those 4 teams, except maybe Michigan, the other 3 are really going to have a lot to play for probably here.
Yeah, and again, they're going to be heavy underdogs in all those games, but teams have that tendency also to overlook you, and there's going to be on the back end of rivalry games and big games that these other teams will be pointing towards when they play Purdue. So that does present some opportunity. And I agree with you. I think it is a way to measure where this team is now. It may not be in wins and losses in November, but it will be on how well it continues to compete and play hard. And at the end, and, against USC, Illinois, Notre Dame, maybe Notre Dame was a blowout in the second half, but did they play hard and did they do the things that they had to do? And I think for the most part they did. And that part I think seems to be solved from the Barry Odom way of looking at things and going from there. All right, Devin Mockabee had a 98 yards rushing. Purdue did run the ball relatively well. Obviously, the game was such that Purdue was in the lead, so they could run the football a little bit more than they had. But and they had some balance on the offense. Again, the drops were a huge part of the problem. But Purdue needs to have that type of balance, needs to be in the game enough so that they can run the football a little bit with Devin Mockabee, one would think.
Yeah, that's always the key to success for football at most every level. Your ability to A, run the ball, and your ability B, to stop the run. I mean, that's where football typically begins and ends if you want a victory. And you're right; they came out running very well last week, Alan. Right out of the box, Mockabee was rolling, 98 yards on 21 carries, I think he had, and yeah, Purdue's going to have to hope for similar success against a pretty salty Northwestern front seven. So, but that line's continue to make some strides. I think there's a good chance maybe Jalen St. John doesn't play again, the left guard, which Hank Purvis came in and played very well.
Right,
left guard.
Graded very well, right?
Yeah, he's a large human being, and he played some football at UNLV too before he got here. And the tight end George Burhan's still going to be out. That's a big loss. And then Denylon Morris said, I get the sense maybe he's still going to be out, which is unfortunate. But still, Purdue's got to run that football. That gives you balance. That sets up Ryan Brown's play action, and they got to keep that Northwestern defense on its heels, Alan. And then you got to take some shots downfield. If you're going to win games, you're going to have to hit a couple big plays and score on a long run, score on a long pass. And if your offense is balanced, you certainly have a better chance to do that.
All right, Tom. Well, we're going to let you get on your way. You got a lot going on, and we appreciate your coverage. Look for Tom's coverage, obviously, on goldenblack.com after the game. You can watch us, too, on Saturday, goldenblack.com Saturday simulcast. We'll get Tom live from that spacious press box, I think, if they don't kick you out at Martin Field. But we'll have that post-game we'll start that show about a half hour after Purdue Northwestern, 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock local time, Big Ten Network for tomorrow afternoon. All right, Tom, have a great trip up there and safe travels.
Thank you, Alan.
All right, we'll take a short break and be back with our next segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.